All right, here we go. Hey, my name is John Chen. I'm the CEO for GeoTeaming, and we are here at Urban Impacts Accelerator. We have some exciting program today, but let me give it to your main presenter now. Let's hand it off to BJ Stewart. Give it up for BJ.
Yes, thank you, John, for that introduction. This is the May edition of our monthly Accelerator session. So participants, just wanted to remind you guys that we are going to convene next on June 11th, and then again on July 16th after the July 4th holiday. And then our final, we're looking to do an extended session, and we're still working on those plans, and we'll seek your input as well. Our final session being August 13th. And what we're thinking is having some demo day such that you all can have a chance to demonstrate what you were able to accomplish through your participation in the Urban Impact Accelerator. So we're pretty excited about that. You notice that we have Zoom or Othello UW Commons, and that is because we don't know what the state of the state is going to be in terms of the availability of Othello Commons. So push comes to shove, you can meet us here on Zoom. In terms of our agenda for this evening, we've already checked in. Very quickly, we want to track, and we're not going to do it tonight, but Christian is going to reach out to each one of you because we are interested in terms of who has received any type of COVID-related funding. You know, that might look like the Paycheck Protection Program funding. That might look like the Emergency Impact Disaster Loan. It might be a local grant. It might be some more widely distributed grant. But we want to, for the purpose of us being advocates for entrepreneurs and under-resourced communities, we want to track who, at least in our cohort, has received any type of relief funding. So please respond to Christian's inquiry. And if you wouldn't mind giving the type and the amount, that would be great, because I heard one statistic that said that 95% of the African-American businesses that applied for the Paycheck Protection Program did not get it. So we want to be able to say, hey, at least relative to our dozen or so entrepreneurs, these are the most informed in the community. So we want to articulate, did we make a difference or not? And then two, if there is some systemic issue in terms of funding not getting to our entrepreneurs, we want to understand what that is and be able to advocate on your behalf and on entrepreneurs in under-resourced communities' behalf as well. Then you see our layout here, where this is really about transitioning and preparing to reopen as the state is in phase one, about to go into phase two in terms of post-COVID. We want to make sure you all are prepared. So Christian is going to talk about some industry-specific guidance relative to reopening, and also provide some CDC tips, of which the state is following the CDC, some of the CDC tips relative to reopening. I'm going to do a brief review of some of the operations related issues that are applicable as we look to reopen. And then Jennifer Ness Tucker, who was our featured speaker last month, will be joining us at about 7 o'clock. And she has this workshop called Assess and Pivot. And then we're going to close with you all creating your own pivot plan such that you are fully equipped with information, and you'll be fully equipped with, here's what you're going to do to be fully open, and not only just survive this reopening thing, but to thrive as well. So that is our agenda for this evening. So I will now turn it over to Christian, and Christian is going to share some of the state-related information in terms of phase one, phase two, phase three, phase four of the reopening process. Christian, you want to take it over? And just let me know when you want to advance slides.
All right, thank you, BJ. So moving forward, there are 4 phases that is called a safe startup. Safe Start, which is technically for reopening businesses in Washington. Phase 1 and phase 2, they were kind of restrict more people to like stay home. But as you can see here, it's not very clear, but as you can see here, it gradually lets people be gathered. Like for the gathering especially, it allows for 5 people next phase, and then 50 people the next phase. And then by phase 4, they're allowing for more people to be in one place. And we're gonna break down each of the phase, and we will send out this information that has the link to the chart and the link to the governor's Medium page, which has a description of what happens in each phase and any changes that are made between now and the next time he publishes something. BJ, can you go to the next?
Sure. And we were thinking how, trying to discern how deep of a dive should we go. And this information is changing on almost a daily basis. So what we thought that we would do was build the links into this slide deck to the source information, and then that will arm you all with where to go to get the latest and greatest relative to your specific industry specific information.
Definitely, because the links have changed even since I looked at them. So effective May 5th, and for current phase, those are the businesses that are allowed. But for some businesses, there's like a requirement that you need to fulfill, and there's a memo that goes with it. If we take a look at the restaurants for this one, it doesn't have it because they're supposed to be like online order or curbside pickup. But if you look at the rental one or the landscaping, they each have to follow standards from the governor, and there are guidance on what you can have and what you can't have. And even if like the pet services are allowed, that excludes grooming. So it might be a business that you own or you operate, but you need to actually look at if it meets the requirement to be open at that time. So this is the current phase, but we're almost getting to our next phase, which is going to be June 1st. BJ, can you go into that one? Because that's more of, yes. So they're saying phase 2 will start around June 1st. And this is the most important one because it allows for for restaurants 50% capacity. But if you look at what that means is to have tables more than 6 feet apart, having hand sanitizers at the door, and having less people serve, and more importantly, not having reusable items, meaning even the menus have to be single use, condiments on the table, they have to be single use. They're really trying to make sure that there is no spread. And if you are serving people, they would like you to record every customer's name, the time to enter, and their contact information, just in case something happens, you can reach them to inform them. So even though it's open, like this are open, you have to follow the mandatory requirements from the governor, and there are memo that entails if your business actually is considered restaurant or hair salon, or like it shows you what's considered in that category. And the single use is really emphasized, especially for food related items. And if you're serving customers that are not not currently using your service, like if they're in the waiting area, they need to be wearing mask, and that's a requirement. If they're in the waiting area, if they're going to the bathroom, if they're leaving or entering the building, they need to be wearing mask. And the only time they have to take off the mask is when they're receiving direct service, like if they're eating food. But other times they need to actually do their part in making sure that there is no spread of the virus. And all the links are actually included, and if they don't have links, they currently don't, but if they do come up with more links information, and we will link those with the bullet points. Next slide. So phase 3 is what everyone is more looking forward to, because that's when most businesses open, but they have to be less than 100% capacity. So with 50% capacity, there's more room for social distancing, and social distancing is enforced in all the work environments. And in phase 2, even bars are not allowed, or like any communal spaces are not allowed. And in phase 3, those are open, but they have to be in a lower capacity than like recreational or restaurants or other services. So they're actually like 25%. And they allow everyone up to 50%, 50 people in one place, as opposed to 5 in phase 2. So this is like 45 people more, but it's not, you have to limit those people to 50% the room capacity or the building capacity. So they haven't said when this will be. It's 3 weeks in between each phase. So phase 1 is currently in, and then phase 2 is going to be June 1st. So this happened to maybe the 3rd or 4th week of June, because it has to be 3 weeks in between before the next phase comes in. And everything from phase 1 and phase 2 will actually be included in phase 3. It's just opening more gradually. So in phase 4, the hope is that everything will open, but with appropriate social distancing and physical distancing in one environment. But they're saying this is going to be determined based on the tests and everything that factor into making this decision. And they have not said when this will be. It's just they're doing incremental changes to see if social distancing and other preventative measures are actually working before they enforce those days. So when we move into actually reopening business, there are tips from the CDC that emphasizes on how can we stay open by not spreading the disease. So the first one is to reduce transmission among employees, because they're the ones serving the customers. And if, of course, if an employee is sick, they have to go home. But if there are like not showing full symptoms and slightly sick, to kind of separate them from the rest of the employees so that the other employees are not also contaminated. And it's kind of really on the educational piece, letting your employees know what's happening and informing them about what COVID-19 is and how that can spread and how they can do their part to make sure it does not spread. So this is more on the employee side and educational aspect of reopening. This is before you open, to kind of make sure your team knows what you're planning to do to kind of be part of the stopping the spread. So this one is for the operation side. This one, you need to follow, of course, all the policies and practices of social distancing and also from the governor. And if there are any issues, like if something is contaminated or someone contaminated, it's your responsibility to reach out to anyone that might be involved to kind of do your part. And also this is really important for work coverage, because if someone is sick and they can't make it, figuring out a way how to make sure the work is still done. If someone is out for sick, or if someone is home because they have to take care of someone, who will be doing that part that's missing, and what can you do to make sure the operation is running smoothly even after the business is reopened.
Christian, are there tips in terms of, like taking the temperature of your employees and assessing their health before they, start work, and doing so on a shift-by-shift basis, or is there guidance in that respect and subsequent tips?
I read those in non-CDC articles, and I wasn't sure if that was like a mandatory, so that's why I didn't include it. But in many places, they check temperature before anyone can enter. Employees or customer, but I didn't include it because it wasn't directly from the CDC, and I didn't want to.
So that is the industry specific guidance varies widely from industry to industry. Mm-hmm. So you need to pay particular attention to what's required to your industry.
Yes, and then 3 is the main important one. The important version of the tip is to make sure the work environment is actually good for the customers, the employees, and for yourself. That includes making sure there's enough air in the system, so that the place is actually ventilated. And for this, it requires the environment to actually be really cleaned and disinfected, which will go into the next slide. And making sure that even you or your employees, or making sure anyone that's involved are not traveling where they're not supposed to, or where it's not mandatory, so that you're being careful of what happens when people are not within the area they're supposed to be. So if they're attending meetings or gathering, making sure that you know they have attended, so that you can also do a check-in to see if everything is good. And if you move forward, okay. So this is what CDC said to really do like disinfection. This has to be a routine. It's not like a one-time thing. It has to be routinely done. Those are the most touched surfaces, which mean the viruses could be in those surfaces, and they need to be cleaned thoroughly between uses. So if they have not been touched for more than 7 days, they said it's okay not to clean. But if business is open, then they're more likely to be used more often, so they need to be cleaned. Quickly moving forward. That's actually for BJ. Yeah, I think that's I have right now, but I will add more links as I find them. Yeah, and I will hand it to BJ.
All right, sounds good. So this post-COVID recovery preparation is really a review of what we covered last month, during last month's Accelerator session. And remember, the message that I left you all is that managing your cash flow is the most critical and impactful thing that you can do. And it was back then when we were in the midst of, the peak of the crisis. So how do I manage through this thing? And it's going to be the most critical and impactful thing you can do going forward as we see a light at the end of the tunnel, exiting this crisis and start the reopening process. So manage your cash, manage your cash, manage your cash flow, right? And that starts with communication. And I'm not going to go into a lot of details with this because, again, we covered it last month, but communication is going to be so important. That's communicating with your employees. If you take a look at some of the tips that Christian already covered, a lot of it had to do with education and communicating with your employees. So that's going to be critically important. And talking with your colleagues to share what's working and what's not working, and leveraging your knowledge, leveraging your resources amongst people that are doing very similar things. That's going to be critical because there's so much to think about. There's so much so much information to handle that no one person is going to be able to know everything. So even within our cohort here with the Accelerator, this is really, what do you call it? Crowd sharing of information is going to be so critically important. So don't hesitate to reach out with your industry colleagues relative to best practices, relative to what's working, relative to what's not working. Communication with your employees, obviously, with your customer, obviously, is going to be critically important. And here's a point that Jennifer Ness in her presentation will really drive home is understanding. Make sure that you understanding the changing needs, the changing desires, the changing problems of your customers, because that presents a risk and an opportunity for you. If you assess, adjust, and pivot to those changing problem needs and desires, that's going to allow you to meet those changing needs, desires, and that means sales, right? So if you don't, however, that means that you're not meeting the needs of your customers, and they're going to go somewhere else to figure out those needs and satisfy those needs and find solutions for their problems. So talk to your customers, understanding their changing problems, needs, and desires, and then pivoting, meeting those changing needs, problems, and desires. That's going to be super duper critical as we move forward here. And that's something that Jennifer Ness will address later on in her presentation. Okay. Managing your cash. What I would advise, and what I'm doing even within Urban Impact, is creating a 3-month cash plan, right? Because it's not just, am I going to survive the next 30 or 60 months? We really don't, days, I should say, we really don't know, how long this thing is going to go on. So it's going to be important that you all look ahead. And I think a 3-month window is a sufficient amount of runway, just because there's so many uncertainties. I think a 3-month cash plan is probably the right amount of runway in terms of you planning your cash flow. And one of the points I want to bring out is making sure that you get your money. And that calls for invoicing immediately for all sales and services, and then collecting. Hopefully you're doing a lot of cash or credit card business, but if you do invoice, make sure you invoice immediately and then collect on those invoices as well. Take a look at your mortgage and rent payments, and to the extent that you can defer your mortgage payments, do so, and that will allow you to create some bandwidth during this really tight time frame until things get fully operational, and it'll free up some cash, and then negotiate a reduced rent or some rent abatement. Note that defer does not mean forgive. So it's really important that if you negotiate lower payments on your mortgage or your rent, that you either negotiate the terms to have that time added on to the end of your mortgage, or you negotiate some payment plan, because if you don't, then you'll end up with some big balloon payment at some later date down the road, and you want to avoid that. So make sure that you understand the terms of your deferment, or whether it's your mortgage payment or negotiating a new lease. Assessing your staffing, that's going to be critically important as we reopen our doors. Understanding what your minimum staffing needs are, and making the appropriate staffing decisions relative to personnel and hours to meet the needs and demands of your customer, and that's going to be critically important. And that's going to be one of your most significant cash flow draws as well. So making sure that you have sufficient staff, to meet the demand of your business, but don't overstaff, because that'll drain your cash flow for sure. Negotiating with vendors, negotiating with your creditors, again, all for the purpose of freeing up cash while things are super duper lean, and postponing the payment of those items until cash flow improves. That's something we talked about last month, and a tactic to survive COVID-19. And as we roll out, as we reopen, that's going to be something that you'll need to continue to keep your eyes on. And again, as we look forward and look to manage our cash, minimizing expenses, making sure that we make expenditures that's only essential for operating our businesses, even to the point of not stocking up with our inventory. Only buy enough inventory for sales that you see on the immediate horizon. So don't overstock your inventory. And the last 2 points that I want to make here is to assess all of your fixed costs, right? Assess all of your costs, right? Keeping your variable costs to a minimum, really assessing your fixed costs, because what you may discern as you work out your numbers, as you work out your cash flow, that it may not be the smartest thing to immediately open your doors. You might want to delay opening your doors if it doesn't make sense from a cash flow perspective. You might want to delay opening your doors until things are fully open and you're able to attract enough business to sustain you from a cash flow perspective. So that's where it gets back to that 30, 60, 90-day cash flow analysis to ensure that you have enough cash flow to survive and that you don't drain your capital resources. And the last point that I want to make, I believe here, is dealing with your taxes. There are still some deferment period relative to B&L, L&I, and property taxes. Those are all things that need to be negotiated with the taxing authorities. Some of those deferred tax payments are coming to the end of their deferment, and there may be some additional forgiveness, but whether it's not forgiveness, some additional deferment, but whether it's the city with B&O, or the state with L&I, or the county with property tax, or whoever the taxing authority is, you need to reach out to them to negotiate any deferment of tax payments, and just don't ignore them, because that can certainly get you in trouble. And we've provided a couple of links here. One is a state link, and the other is for the federal, the IRS. And again, communication is a key point. Get with those taxing authorities if you intend to defer tax payments. As a reminder that there's no break on federal payroll taxes, right? So you need to pay those things on time. You need to file your 940 and 941s. You need, if you're self-employed, you need to make your regular quarterly payments in terms of your self-employment taxes. There's no break on federal payroll taxes. So I just wanted to make that point. Okay. And I'm not going to really dwell here, because that's where Jennifer Ness is really going to pick up. But the theme for the rest of the evening is going to be adapting and pivoting. I'm not going to address this, and I think mindset, as we come to the end of our presentation here, mindset is going to be critically important. Welcome, Jennifer Ness. How are you? Because we don't want to, have a limping through this thing mindset. We want to have a thriving mindset, and that requires you to be prepared to manage your cash and to, assess and pivot, as Ms. Jennifer Ness Tucker is going to address here for the next few minutes. What we're going to do is have Jennifer Ness present her material. We're going to have a breakout session where you all actually, work through your, assessment and pivot plan, and then we're going to conclude with a brief readout just before 8 o'clock. So, Miss Jennifer Ness, how are you?
I am super duper awesome and great. Thank you for asking. Happy to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me again. I love this stuff. Like, I live and breathe for this stuff. I love entrepreneurship, and I'm an educator, so I love being able to share whatever knowledge I have. So thank you for having me. I think we will jump right in. I don't know everybody, so I don't need to know everybody, but I do want to make sure that you guys are paying attention, because Urban Impact didn't pay me. So, so the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying is I need to make sure that this information is being delivered. So thank you guys for being here. At least tap in the chat box hello, so I know that you guys are listening, that you're there. I see a couple of you turned your picture on, so I appreciate that. But just type hello.
Yes, and if possible, if you could turn on your video cameras, that would be phenomenal. So we can
Hi, Teresa. Hi, Alicia. Hi, Monica. Hi, Sam. Hey.
Why don't you chat a little something about your business to Jennifer Ness, so she knows who you are. We have a lot of great entrepreneurs here, Jennifer Ness.
I was really just about to ask, is anybody already in business? I just want to know what your status is. Are you in business right now, currently doing some type of business, or are you completely stopped because of the stay home, stay healthy? So those are the two options: in business currently, or ready to restart. So I can know how to actually, which way to lean towards. So in business or getting ready to restart. You can type that in the chat box. Okay, Teresa, you're in business. Thank you. Okay, Monica, you're in business. Alicia's in business. Sam, I'm assuming that thumbs up means you in business. Okay. John is in business. Okay, so all of y'all are already in business. So you're already working in your business. So we're talking about a reopen plan, but it looks like everybody's already in business. Am I right? Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
You're correct, but modified, right? So I have a storefront. The storefront's closed, but we're open online. So we need to prepare to open our doors back.
Okay.
Like Urban Impact is our office is closed, but all of our programming is virtual at this point. So as soon as things open up, we would love to be more face to face, and Alicia can speak to the Rainer Health and Fitness as well.
Okay. I ain't feeling that opening up and getting back in folks' faces. I don't know about y'all, but I ain't trying to catch COVID-19, okay? So when they talk about open back up, I'm like, okay, my meetings is still gonna be online. It works well for me. Thank you. But I was talking to my friend today, and he's at Boeing. He said, oh, it looks like we're gonna go back into business, going back into the office in July. I was like, how'd that make you feel? I ain't feeling it. So I'm just talking from my own experience. I ain't feeling going back. So anyways, I do have a presentation for you guys. And thank you. I like to be really interactive. For those of you that don't know, I'm super duper energized. I'm like the Energizer Bunny. And I'm very positive, motivating, but I need to get it back. Okay. So let me start my presentation. So this, oh, what that cute picture. Y'all see that? Ooh, they cute. Hold on. Okay, so we're going to be talking about assessing and pivoting, developing your post-COVID-19 reopen plan. So what I've been telling my clients, and I got a ton of existing clients and just really been able to get some new clients here lately because of everything that's going on. But what I've been telling my clients is, this is the perfect time to work on your business. A lot of us didn't have that time when we were working constantly and things were just moving right along, right? We didn't have the time to work on our business. We were steadily working in our businesses. So this is the perfect timing. If you haven't already been doing so, that's okay, because that's why we're here tonight, to develop your plan. But this right now is the absolute perfect timing for you to be working on your business. A little bit about me. I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm an educator. I teach economics and I teach a few entrepreneurship and marketing classes. And I've written a few books and I do a lot of coaching. And so that's a little bit about my background. My email is advice@jennafinesse.com. So I also work for the Washington Small Business Development Center. So my full-time job, I work there, but I'm an entrepreneur. And so I'm speaking your language because I'm doing exactly what you guys are doing. And so I'm able to speak that language. Earlier today, I interviewed Beto over at Ventures, and his story just kind of blew my mind. I was like, whoa. I was asking him questions thinking I was going to stump this man, and everything I asked him, he was like, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I like him. I like the fact that you're not just talking the talk, but you're walking the walk. And I think as entrepreneurs, we like to feel that, or we like to see, like, okay, you ain't just get an education and was born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Like, you had some troubles, you had some hard times, and you overcame, and you pivoted before. So now you can tell me how to pivot, right? So that's a little bit about me. You can find me on every social media platform, wherever you look, except for, what's that? Snapchat. I don't do that. I'm too old for that. I ain't on Snapchat, but I'm on all the rest of them. So COVID-19 has changed the way we looked at business as usual. So we must assess and pivot to have a sustainable business model. How many of you guys think that your business model, your current business model is sustainable? Sustainable or nah? Type it in the chat box. Nah, N-A-H, or sustainable. Y'all see I hang around with too many kids, right? Sustainable or nah? I can't see the chat box no more. Huh. Maybe because I got this open, I don't know.
Yeah, just you can click the bar if you can find it and you'll chat and you can open a separate window to the side, Jenna Finesse.
Yeah.
But I can read it here for you. I've got sustainable somewhere in the middle, IDK, not sustainable under current conditions, and sustainable. How about that?
Love it. I want to speak to the IDK person and the not sustainable under the current conditions, okay? Because those are the people that's probably going to get this message and really get an aha moment before we get off of this call. But two things I want to leave y'all with. Two things. I hope y'all writing this stuff down, right? Everybody writing? Okay. Two things I want to leave y'all with. Assess and pivot. Those are the two things that you guys are doing in your plan tonight, right? So as I'm talking, I'm going to go over three things. I'm going to go over assessing your demand, assessing your financials, and assessing your operations. As I'm speaking about those three things, I want you to take two things from each category, and I'm going to call y'all out, okay? So please, don't make me look crazy. Don't make BJ look crazy. Don't make yourself look crazy, okay? I'm gonna call y'all out. So we're gonna talk about 3 things one more time. Assessing your demand, assessing your operations, and assessing your financials. So any business advisor, coach, consultant will tell you, if you're not looking at your demand for your product and having a solution that has a demand, right, then you don't even have a business, right? And so sometimes the harsh reality, and I've talked to the entire gamut these last 60 days, the harsh reality is some of these businesses are going to fail. They're not sustainable. And that's why I said I want to talk to the IDK and somewhat sustainable, because I want you to be sustainable. I don't want you to walk away from this and be like, man, I used to have a business back in January 2020, back in the day, right? I want you to walk out of this and say, you know what? My business is stronger. COVID-19 made me stronger, because that is going to be the reality for some of us. Okay. So now let's get into this. Assessing your demand. So as I'm going through these, I want you to pick 2 things from this screen. I'm going to hold this screen up here while I'm going through it. But as we're talking, 2 things. This is how you guys are going to create your plans tonight. Okay. So as you're assessing your demand, do you have a sustainable solution? So what is a sustainable solution? So here's a sustainable solution. A solution means there are folks who have the problem that you're solving, right? Entrepreneurs are problem solvers. If you're not solving no problems, you do not have a sustainable solution. So a sustainable solution looks like, okay, I know that in my market, in my industry, there are this many people who have my problem. And all they need to know is that I am the problem solver, right? And that's what makes me sustainable. That's what makes my business sustainable. The more problems I solve, the more money I make, and the longer I can stay in business, okay? How has COVID-19 affected your brand loyalty? So think about that. Say, for example, and I was talking to a smoothie shop the other day. I was talking to her about the fact that she just didn't realize that she was an essential business. For some reason, she closed down the smoothie shop thinking, oh my goodness, I'm not essential business. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, you're essential. You're just like any other restaurant. As a matter of fact, I was just over here at Emerald City Smoothie the other day. What are you talking about? She was like, I didn't know. She's like, I thought I wasn't essential. I'm like, girl, stop playing with me. And so the point I'm trying to make is, because she closed down for these 2 months now, people was going to get their smoothie somewhere else. Why are they loyal to you and you weren't even open? And they don't even know why. Like, you didn't even post nothing on your social media. You didn't say absolutely anything. So has COVID-19 affected your brand loyalty? Think about that for whatever businesses you guys have. How loyal and large is your customer base? And so we look at companies. Did y'all read that article about that girl that made over $1 million in 3 hours? Yeah, Google it. Black girl too. So, you know, I was all up in it like, what happened, girl? So anyway, this young Black girl made over $1 million in 3 hours when her business opened. I think it was either skincare. I slip in my mind right now. But my point is, she had a loyal and large customer base, right? Anything we're doing right now, because most of us are looking at just these screens all day long. I spend so much money, it don't make no sense, buying the dumbest stuff that probably ain't gonna get here until next Christmas. But just because it flashed before my eyes, I'm like, oh yeah, that looks like something nice, whatever. But this girl made all this money because she had a large and loyal customer base. Also, these crowdfunding campaigns, I've been seeing a lot of them that's been doing really, really well. One of the ones that I donated to recently was I Run With Maud. They was trying to raise $100,000. They raised $700,000 in like 3 days, okay? So first of all, it was one of those things that pierced our hearts, right? We saw what happened to Ahmad and we like, oh my goodness, you know, this is horrible. How can we help? How can we support? So we put our money where our mouth is. And so we became their large and loyal customer base. Guess what? I follow that page. Almost every day I go on social media, I'm trying to see what's going on now, what's going on with them. And I'm learning, right? So I've become a fan of that page. And that's what you guys want from your customers. You want a large and loyal customer base so that then you can create ambassadors, right? You create ambassadors by them knowing what exactly are you doing, why are you doing it, and they just support it. And so that's what happens. So that's another thing. Do you have a competitive advantage? Oh my goodness. You don't know if you have a competitive advantage if you don't know what your competitors are doing. The only way you know if you have a competitive advantage, if you've done a SWOT analysis and you know exactly what they are doing wrong. And that's how you capitalize. Like, you look at that thing like, oh, their customers say they slow. Oh, their customers say that their customer service is horrible. Oh, their customers say they got the stuff and it was bent up or it was crumbled or whatever. That's how you build your competitive advantage. You look at what they're doing wrong, what their customers are saying about them, and you create your customer advantage. I'm sorry, your competitive advantage. So all them customers that used to go to them now come to you, right? So this is how we assess the demand, okay? Are there any other more favorable solutions out there than the one that you're offering? If there is, maybe there's an opportunity to collaborate. Maybe there's an opportunity to kind of customize or complement what they have. Instead of always looking at your competition, like, oh, I got to outdo them. I don't want them to know what I'm doing, right? Instead of looking at it that way, maybe look at it a different way. Like, you know what? They do that part really well. I can kind of promote them on that particular issue. And let me just stick right here. I'll talk about this a little later, but your riches are in your niches. Please write that down. Your riches are in your niches. If you don't niche, if you don't have a little small piece of the pie, you ain't getting none of the pie, right? Some of these industries that you guys are in are like billion-dollar industries. What does that look like if you just have 1% of that? You cool, right? You like, okay, run me that money, baby. You don't need a whole piece of the pie. But how you get that is being able to niche yourself. I was talking to a client just yesterday, and he's doing a lot with financial literacy. And I was like, financial literacy is so huge. When you say that, it just automatically turns me off. I'm like, what's your niche? Like, what are you good at? What do you want to be known for? And this is the same thing I'm saying to you guys. And when he started talking, he said, I do a lot of first-time home buyers. I said, bam, you're the first-time home buyer, man. That's all you need to be. With folks that are looking for a house, guess what? It's a ton of folks that need to buy a house that are going to be first-time home buyers. You just be the first-time home buyer, man. Let that be your niche. And so everybody else, yes, you might get some folks that's on their 4th or 5th home, and that's great. But your marketing could be so focused, right, on that little small piece of the pie that all of those folks, you will become known as that, and they will come to you just for that, okay? One other thing I want to talk about on this particular slide is, what are the current problems and needs? That's changed, right? Depending upon your industry, that has changed. And sometimes it has changed dramatically, okay? So let's look at what's going on currently, right? Not what was going on in January 2020, not what might be going on even in January 2021, but what are the current needs or problems in your particular industry? So I'm gonna pause right there. I'm gonna give y'all the opportunity to volunteer yourself before I start calling y'all out, okay? But I just wanna know, what stood out to you in assessing your demand from the things I just said?
Go ahead and unmute.
Well, I was looking at the creating brand ambassadors, absolutely, because we have so many customers that love our products, and we have not garnered a lot of testimonials. So that's something we can do. We can use brand ambassadors to market to their network. And so I was like, wow, that's just like a whole, actually, really and truly. So
Thank
that's
you for that,
really
Monica.
to me.
And what somebody did for me recently, I'm not the type of person that wear makeup every day. I don't even know how to do it. But this girl, she used to be my client when I lived in Ohio, and she used to do my lashes and my eyebrows. So she had this creative new product. It's almost like edge controls for your eyebrows. And so she was like, Jennifer Ness, will you be a brand ambassador for me? I'm like, girl, I probably ain't your client. She's like, no, my client is do it yourself. The new people that's trying to figure it out. I was like, oh, well, I'm that girl, So she sent me that product in the mail. I did it on my daughter. I did it on me. And, and so all of my audience sees that, right? So you, as a brand ambassador, that's a third party verifying your work. So that goes way further than your own voice, right? It goes way further than you posting a picture of somebody or a video of somebody. That third party is shouting you out, right? So because they're shouting you out, all their folks see it and they're like, and they trust them, they believe them. So when I started going on social media, like, oh, y'all see my eyebrows? I used to talk about how my eyebrows look like cousins. And so when I did her video, I was like, oh, look, they ain't twins yet, but they at least look like sisters. You know what I'm saying? And so my audience knew that was a struggle of mine. And so they immediately went and started buying her stuff. So thank you for that, Monica. Anybody else want to volunteer?
Jenna Finesse, I know something about Monica's business too. It's Monica, did I get it right? Queen Care, right? Yeah. And she has all these products. I mean, like, what if she started creating something like brand ambassadors that were queen bees or something?
Yes. Hello.
Look at, she laughed.
All the bees
Like that.
in the beehive, baby.
Yeah.
What would that B stand for? I'm just curious.
And all the little kids.
Bad
princess.
women.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to talk about assessing your demand, or do I need to call folks out?
Just unmute, because otherwise Jenna Finesse, she will hunt you out. Look at Sam. Come on, Sam.
Oh man, how loyal, large is your customer base? That stood out to me. And man, my customers been pretty much loyal. I've been seeing like the same people, but actually growing people too. But I've been seeing the same people on Wednesdays and Saturdays. They've been coming to get their issue. So that's been that. I make teriyaki bowls. My business is called Bowls of Soul.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are they highlighting your business for you, or you still have to be the one to do it? Oh, they're doing
that. Yeah. And then what I've been doing is just taking pictures with them and stuff too. You know, when they get their food or whatnot. So
leveraging your social media.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Okay, that's great. That's great. So what's the current problem? What's the current problem with those teriyaki bowls?
With me, I don't know. I think I gotta step up my marketing still. That's probably my biggest, just stepping up my game. Just, making it more accessible, making sure people seeing it, so just probably like spending more money on Instagram and Facebook for promotions probably would, and it's not a problem. It's just something that I probably should just do a little bit more. I've been doing it, starting to do it as of late, but if I had jumped on that a while ago, I think I would be a little bit further, but
okay. It's never too late. And when I was talking about the problem or the issue, what you just described to me is what your challenge is. But what I was asking you is what's the problem or issue in healthy options, healthy food options? Maybe it's access, right?
Oh, right.
It's variety. So looking at what is the problem that folks are saying? I know a lot of folks are cooking at home right now and they're just getting tired of their own cooking, right? So maybe it's access, maybe it's variety. So looking at the exact problem, what's the problem right now? How can I solve that? Okay, so that's something I want you to think about.
Well, with me, I've been going to wherever people's at. So if you up north, I'm coming to you. If you in Federal Way, I've been coming. I just been, I've been making it accessible, So but like I wouldn't normally do that either. But during this time, I'm like, man, I'm gonna just go get it all,
Is that sustainable for you? Is it cost effective?
Nah, because I wouldn't be going to Federal Way to drop off no bowls. But what I've been doing, I've been having a lot of people like in the same area. So it been, I haven't had to be, I tell somebody if I'm going to Federal Way to go meet 3 people, I just tell, the other 2, you gotta meet me at Federal Way. Or, you gotta meet, you gotta meet me on my terms. So
I like that. So I'm in Federal Way on Tuesdays. So that way you got 20 orders in Federal Way on Tuesday.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's just a more strategic way to look at it. When I'm going to Federal Way on Tuesday, I'm gonna make this worth it, okay? I'm walking out of there with some, with some stacks on stacks on stacks.
Hello. Yeah.
So that's just one way that you can think about it, right? I'm gonna be in Seattle on Mondays. I'm gonna be on Federal Way on Tuesdays. I'll go all the way to Tacoma on Wednesdays. I gotta have at least, 50 orders. And so you got a minimum amount, right? This lady I was talking about that was doing smoothies, her minimum smoothie is 4. So she's doing this like 5-day cleanse and all this stuff. So folks feel like, oh, I need to get that, So I'm like, how that was very strategic and it was very smart. So you ain't just delivering a smoothie because ain't nobody like that. But she's delivering 5 smoothies, right? Or she's posting up at Walmart in the parking lot saying, I'm gonna be at Walmart at 3 o'clock, come get your smoothies.
I know that's right.
So this is just a strategic way of thinking about it.
I like
All right,
that.
so we're moving on to financials. Let's think about assessing your financials. So y'all get ready, because Monica and Sam kind of threw themselves on the sword. So the rest of y'all, I'm coming for you, okay? So let's look at assessing your financials. Listen, I had a client who had an outstanding account with one of her accounts. She does commercial cleaning. And so she was cleaning a few buildings. And one of them hadn't paid her, like this was back in like early April when we was talking. One of them hadn't paid her since February. And I'm like, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. They paid her for 2 of the other accounts, but didn't pay her for one. And so she was just like, oh my God. I was like, let me see your outstanding. Let me see your accounts receivable. And she showed them to me. And I'm like, well, what's up with this? I was like, girl, this is 47 days. What's up with it? She's like, I don't know why they ain't paid. I said, listen, here's what you're going to do. You're going to send them an invoice every day. And you're going to add a late fee to it every single day. It took them 3 days. They paid that thing in full. I was like, ain't no way. They sitting on your money. Why you gonna let somebody else sit on your money? So let's think about that. When you're assessing your financials, anybody owe you money, right? Are there any outstanding accounts out there that you need to collect on? Can you afford additional debt? Everybody's talking about the IDO and the PPP, but a lot of folks are getting that money and don't have a clue what they're gonna do with it or how they're gonna pay it back if they have to pay it back. It's forgivable under certain conditions. So think about that. If you were one of the folks that got that money, can you afford that additional debt if it turns into debt, right? And then are there other contingency funding available? Some of us didn't qualify for some of those things. Who else out here is giving out money, right? Think about some of these micro lenders, some of these CDFIs, especially the ones that are given out to minorities and people of color, right? They have a strong mission to put out this money to minorities and people of color, and maybe it's smaller amounts that you can't afford, right? So let's think about that. Are your personal finances taking a hit right now? That's something to think about, right? Because, earlier, maybe we had those ebbs and flow in business, but we at least knew it was coming. Right now, this thing is just so unprecedented. We don't know what's coming. We don't know when the economy gonna pick up. We don't know when folks gonna start spending money again. We don't know if what we have is important enough for them to do so. There's so many uncertainties, right? So because there's so many uncertainties, of course our personal finances are taking a hit. So think about that. And as you think about that, think about if you need to do some certain things to make sure that your personal finances are not taking too much of a hit, right? I talked to a client the other day. She was like, I want to file bankruptcy. I'm like, why? What are you talking about? And she was like, I'm just done with my business. I'm like, girl, you can sell this business. I was like, do you not know that you can sell this business? She was like, ain't nobody gonna buy this business. I said, girl, you will be surprised. So we start doing a business valuation, trying to see how much is this business worth before you just go ahead and completely close your doors, which a lot of folks are having to do that. That is our reality, and that's real, right? But before you do that, at least evaluate your business and see if there's certain parts of it you could sell. Even if it might be the inventory, your customer list, right? Your competitors are interested. They may not even know you're out there until you start advertising that you want to get out the business. So those are some things you can start thinking about. Can you defer any of your outgoing payments? I heard BJ, when I first logged on, he talked about that a little bit, so I won't go into that. But what I will talk about, and I'll go into this a little bit later, but do you have any passive revenue streams? This is the major reason why a lot of these small businesses are failing right now, because all of their revenue streams were active. And so when the government said, stay home, stay healthy, they were done because they couldn't fully operate anymore. And so we need passive revenue streams. We need things that are going to pay us while we chilling, while we sitting back on the beach, Let me turn on my beach background real quick, get y'all in the mood. So what we need passive revenue streams. While I'm sitting back here chilling, sipping on my iced tea and lemonade, chilling. My bank account is like cha-ching. Y'all remember them commercials back in the day? Anyway, we need passive revenue streams, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But before I get off of this slide, can I get 2 volunteers to talk about something that kind of triggered something in you that you need to assess your financials?
I would like to chime in on the finances.
Thank you.
This is Lee. I basically made a decision in 2019 that really has helped me so much. And one of those things was to get my books in order and to get onto QuickBooks and to start utilizing that. And then in January 2020, I started doing the QuickBooks payroll piece of it as well, in part because I was facing some tax problems. And so that's kind of, it's almost behind me because this thing came up, but we've been like making sure that everything has been on deck. But because I automated that piece, and I cannot stress enough that I wish I would have done it sooner, that because I got on QuickBooks, and then it basically all of my expenses, access to reports, having the payroll piece in there where they're automatically assessing what the payroll is, and making the payroll payments to the government. That part's taken care of, and so that was a big shift for me, and it was one of the things that I'm so glad that I did, that has helped me out in numerous ways.
That's awesome. What's the next step for that, Lee?
Basically,
now that you have that in order, what's the next step?
Well, right now, I do need to assess my finances because, my personal finances aren't really where they should be. And because this time of year, we're a takeout restaurant anyway, so we've been active and haven't had to deal with any shutdown. But this time of year is usually a really good time for us. And so I need to take a very detailed look at all my finances, my credit card, because I taxed my personal finances this past winter. And so I'm just trying to get caught up and trying to figure out where I need to be, and as like BJ was saying, as far as like really, tightening in the belt as far as, and so that's kind of the next page for me, on a personal level, which still interacts with, with my business finances.
I like that. And this is perfect timing. I just want to reiterate that again. Even if you just sit down and say, okay, for the next 60 days, this is something I don't need. This is something I don't need. This is something I don't need. And I can reassess that later. But right now, I'm not paying those bills. I don't have it to do. Just go back to a leaner budget, right? So this is great timing. I mean, I know you said you're still active and you haven't slowed down much, but still take the time to work on your business. Okay. So hopefully assessing your financials is something that you're going to put in your plan today. Anybody else want to share? Thank you for sharing, Lee. Appreciate that. Anybody else?
Just unmute.
Yeah, this is Lawrence.
Hi, Lawrence.
Hi. So one of the things that I'm doing is basically moving a lot of my services because of COVID-19. There's a lot of free services that's available. For example, we just moved over our email account. We moved over a lot of our collaboration tools. GitHub, we basically signed up another account that was free. So we're trying to do the best we can to save as much money as possible on business expense. So that's one of them. Another one is we're renegotiating our lease with the landlord to restructure it so that we have a payment plan for the rent that will give us the ability to survive through this financial crisis.
I love that. Let me tell you this, Lawrence. We have a person in our office that is amazing at lease negotiations. So if you are not connected to the Washington Small Business Development Center, we have a guy, his name is Kevin. He's in, is he in Kent or is he in Auburn? I think he's in Kent. But if you want to, he will look at your lease. He has done phenomenal jobs for my clients. Like they were just about to sign on a dotted line. I'm like, wait. Let me let Kevin look at it. And he will slice and dice that thing up and give you so much that you have leverage and you're armed when you go into those negotiations. So if you're not connected, you could just go to the WSBDC.org And Kevin Grossman is his name. Kevin Grossman. And just reach out to him. And he is amazing when it comes to those lease negotiations. So thank you, Lee. I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you, Lee. And thank you, Lawrence. We're going to move right along. Let's see here. Assessing your operations. So I heard Christian talk about some of the things that the CDC recommends when we are going back into our, hold on real quick, I'm sorry. This is my baby and she is not in the house, so hold on.
Family first. All
right, sorry about that. I got a 14-year-old, y'all know, like what the, anyway, moving right along. So I heard Christian share some of the CDC recommendations, which is great. And the only thing I'll say about that is this is a great time to try to understand, do you need enhanced security? Do you need enhanced insurance? Like some of us weren't thinking about those things, but this is a society where folks will sue at the drop of a dime, right? And so they could literally say they came into your space and they got COVID-19. I don't know how that's going to pan out, but make sure that your liability is as limited as possible, okay? So, so some of the things you want to assess is, will you need enhanced security or insurance? What are the safety and cleanliness measures that you need to communicate to people, right? So folks are deciding whether or not they're going to go to certain businesses and spend their money with certain businesses based on what they're doing for their safetiness and their cleanliness measures. One of the things I did just today, I have an Airbnb in Ohio where I'm from. And one of the things I just did is updated all of my Airbnb, the pictures, I updated them, refreshed them, but I put in the fact that I hired a new company to clean the property, to make sure that it's sanitized, to make sure that it's really up to par for anybody that comes in. So I want my customers to know that. I want my clients to understand that these are the measures that I've put in place so you can feel safe and secure in my space, okay? So that's something that we should be doing as entrepreneurs. Are there opportunities to collaborate? When you think about operations, think about your neighbor. Oh my God, I've been hearing about all of these amazing stories of companies that's adopting other companies, especially in the restaurant industry initially, right? When the restaurants really just took that hit, I saw all kinds of neighborly things that were going on and all the different collaborations that were happening. I just got an email the other day from a co-working space. You know, they're not able to open or have business or anything, but what they said is, we've expanded our internet reach. Say, just drive in, just come sit in the parking lot. This was in Tacoma, it's called Traction Space. They said, just come sit in the parking space and use our internet. You know what I'm saying? Just get out your house for a little while. I thought that was awesome to be able to say, we can't do nothing for you, but at least you can soak up our internet if you want to, or if you need to, right? And they said that our cafe is still open, so you can come and grab a cup of coffee, sit in your car and chill. I was like, that's pretty hot. You know what I'm saying? Because people are going to remember that when they get back to business. They're going to say, you know what? You did this amazing thing. You expanded your internet, which means you increased your bills so that people would know that you care about your community. Those are the folks that people want to do business with, right? So look for opportunities like that. Is there a lean model that would allow you to focus, right? So we're going to talk about like some different business models in just a moment. And then can you operate in phases? You know, just like Governor Inslee is opening up the state of Washington in phases, can your business operate in phases? For example, can you just serve certain items? Can you just have certain things for sale, you know, for the first month to see how that goes? Maybe those items are the ones that you need to be focused on, right? So is there a way that you can open your business in phases where you can get the most from the business that's open at that time? So before I move on to some revenue streams and talking about some different objectives, can I get some volunteers to talk about any part of this that resonates with you as far as your operations are concerned?
This is Teresa.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi, thank you so much for these 3 topics about accessing. I would just like to say it was really easy for me, and I am blessed to be able to seamlessly assist clients virtually because my business is Spark Performance, and we provide organizations with employee development programs. And so I was in the middle of a rebrand though, and so before COVID-19 hit, I was, thinking about basically rebranding and then trying to reach out to potential clients and reach out to my target clients and things like that. But before I could even do that, after my rebrand, some of my clients that I did in-person workshops and trainings for actually reached out to me first and asked if I could do a team building virtual workshop with them. And so now I am really just going to run with this. I think just switching up my model, I think even after COVID-19, and like you said, that you would love to still do your meetings through Zoom. And so just really thinking about having hybrid workshops or series and or just even when things open back up, like having the opportunity for, employees to come in and be in one room and me be virtual. Just exploring a lot of different ways that I can use technology even after COVID-19 to do my business, to conduct Spark Performance.
I love that. I love the fact that happened to me too. I had this huge this summit that was supposed to happen on April 1st. It was a diversity, equity, and inclusion summit. It was at Tacoma Convention Center, and I was supposed to go and speak, and I had my little honorarium. Girl, they didn't already paid me and everything. And then they said, oh, it's canceled. I was like, oh, I hope you don't want your money back. No, but then they contacted me a few weeks later and they were like, oh, we're going to do it virtual. How does that look for you? And I'm like, sounds good to me. You know what I'm saying? Because I ain't trying to be up in nobody's face catching no COVID-19. I ain't about that life. I'm sorry. I can't do it. So if they hadn't canceled, I probably would have canceled on them. But I like the fact that you said, okay, now what you just did was you looked at what are the current needs? What am I able to do with the technology that is out there? How can I maximize myself? Right now you can do one-to-many, and whereas back in the day when you were going into their office, you could only have one client, one corporate client a day. Now you can have 2 or 3 corporate clients a day. You could do a 10 o'clock, a 1 o'clock, and a 4 o'clock happy hour if you wanted to, right? And so you're maximizing the benefit of what you can offer in those operations by staying within the technological parameters. Wowzers, Batman. Okay, that's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. All right, anybody else? I know it's a couple more folks out there. Anybody else want to talk about assessing operations?
Well, I don't want to catch COVID either, guys. And so with the storefront location, I'm just thinking about having some booths outside, and so customers don't even need to come into the store, because I definitely don't want someone to come in here and say that they caught COVID. So I'm just trying to think what that would look like. I think it'd be good because we just had a new coffee shop open on the corner. If they open back up the farmer's market, lots of foot traffic. So I'm just thinking of things differently now.
I like that, Monica. And actually, it will be way more beneficial because you will catch the eye of so many folks that's just going to walk by anyway by being on that sidewalk. I just saw somebody, I don't know if this was in Atlanta where they already opened back up, but girl, they had those 10 by 10 tents. And they had the electricity ran from each of the tents. I think they had like 6 tents and they was doing hair right outside. Like, you know what? We in the open air, we 10 feet apart. You know what I'm saying? I was like, that is so smart. It's just a really smart way to do that type of business. So I encourage you, especially if you're in a high foot traffic type area. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Set up shop outside. Yeah. Especially when the weather is nice and beautiful. Get your girl. You better invest in one of them 10 by 10s.
I'm gonna get one.
So now let's talk about pivoting. All right. So I know most of you have already started writing. So I just want to encourage you to continue to do so. Have your pen and paper ready. You should have at least had 2 things from each of those categories: demand, financial, and operations. Now we're going to talk about business models. I'm sorry. I just ate some really good food. But now we're gonna talk about business models, okay? So let's talk about it. So here are 6 business models. 6, I'm not gonna go into detail, but I just wanna cover them rather quickly. So one business model is to diversify, right? That's when you see, okay, what I'm doing, I might want to add a few more products, right? Or another product line, and maybe in the same vein, right? So that's diversifying. The other one is refocusing. So refocusing just means, okay, I used to do 6 things. I'm just going to do 3 things now. These are the 3 things that have sold the most. These are the 3 things that people really understand what I'm doing and they like it or whatever. So you're going to refocus and kind of just hone down on what your offerings are. The next thing is expand. And expansion could be, okay, like who was that? I think Sam said, okay, I'm going all the way to, did he say Federal Way? I don't know exactly where he said, but he's expanding his territory. And you may want to do that. Maybe there are people in Federal Way, say for example, you have a vegan restaurant and there's no other vegan cuisine in Federal Way. And so now you're saying, okay, I'm going to Federal Way on Tuesdays, right? Because they really enjoy this cuisine there. So I'm expanding that way. Another thing you could think about is globalizing. Oh my goodness, there may not be a lot of support or demand for your product or service here, but it could be in other countries. And that's another thing that the Washington Small Business Development Center has in store. We have a certified global business advisors. So if you're looking to go into a different market, if you're looking to go into a different country and see if your product will sell there, we have global business advisors that can help you understand what that market looks like and help you to even secure a grant that will help you go to another country and see what's going on and see if your product will be able to sell over there, okay? And then also look at maybe selling the business. I told you about a couple folks I've been talking to here recently, trying to identify, can I sell? What is my business worth? You know, can I get a valuation? And then lastly, the last business model is penetration. So in penetration, what that means is the market looks like this. I have maybe a percentage of a share of that market, and I want to penetrate further and maybe get, instead of 5% of the market, I want to get 10% of the market. So I want to penetrate that particular market. So all of those are business models. And what I'd like for you to do is just identify from those 6, which one is most appealing to you. So as you're writing out your plan, you can easily say, okay, I want to diversify, or I want to refocus, or I want to expand. So whatever that looks like for you, okay? And then I want you to just be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Is this business worth the transition? I'm having these cold, hard conversations with my clients. And I'm like, you know what? You really didn't have a sustainable business to begin with, right? And so with COVID-19, you might be spinning your wheels. This may, last for another 6 months, maybe not. And if not, is this something that you want to put more time into? You know what I'm saying? So be honest with yourself and understand, is this business worth the transition? Are you post-COVID-19 ready, right? And then getting back to what I said earlier about becoming a niche leader, okay? Your riches are in your niches. You need to identify exactly who is my target audience, right? I was talking to a guy just yesterday. I said, who was your absolute best customer ever? He said, oh my goodness, this guy named Alfred. I said, why was Alfred your best customer? We started looking at his demographics, his psychographics, the reason why he makes decisions. Then I said, okay, every customer you talk to from now on is going to be an Alfred. You need to only think about identifying and attracting Alfreds. Everybody else, if they come, great. If they don't, great. But them Alfreds, once they know that you are solving their problem, they're going to come to you. Okay, so that's how you become a niche leader. Then look at your mission philosophy. Why in the world are you doing this business, right? We all have a why. So look at your whole mission, the reason why you're doing this. Why, right? And reevaluate that. Maybe it's different now. Maybe it should be different now, right? And then what are your 90-day SMART goals? I saw that BJ said, develop a 30, 60, 90-day plan. But I'm telling folks to just develop a 90-day plan. and develop some really smart goals that's strategic, right? Measurable. Look at those goals and say, okay, here we are in the middle of May. You know, by June, middle of June, I want to at least do this. We heard from a few of you about what you're going to identify and what you're going to look at. Turn that into a really smart goal with objectives underneath it. And then lastly, increase your revenue streams. And so I want to talk a little bit about revenue streams. The average millionaire has how many revenue streams? Type that in the chat box. All right, Lee, Monica, and John, the average millionaire has 7 revenue streams. How many do you have? How many do you guys have? And that's rhetorical. That's rhetorical. I'm just saying, right? I'm just throwing it out there to help you understand. You need to have multiple revenue streams. And your one business can give you multiple revenue streams. You don't have to be a serial entrepreneur to have multiple revenue streams, but you need most of those revenue streams to be passive. That's the problem that a lot of us entrepreneurs have. The only time we're making money is if we're actively doing something to generate that money. We need to have some passive income where we're not actively working and we're sitting back on this beach behind me and our accounts are still going cha-ching, 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 right? So let's think about some ways that we can do that. One of the most successful and highly, one of the things that I'm hearing a lot about lately is subscriptions. People will subscribe to anything, okay? You could just say, hey, you want to be in my VIP club? It's just $5 a month. Guess what? You get 100 people at $5 a month. It's all about that price, right? And where I'm not going to miss it and I'm not going to cancel it because I feel like I'm helping you and I'm helping me. But it's just enough where I feel like, oh, this is cool. You know what I'm saying? But it's cha-chinging you out every month. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Subscriptions are so important, okay? Consulting. Most of us are 1 or 2 steps ahead of the next business owner. So they will pay you for your knowledge, right? So you could be a consultant, a coach, an advisor, right? Everybody's a coach nowadays. And people are paying for coaches. People are paying for Instagram coaches. People are paying for, you know, Instagram famous folks, right? So consulting could be one of your revenue streams.
Hey, Jennifer Ness.
Yes.
This is John, and yeah, that's the thing. I've been practicing this virtual thing for 35 years, and in the last 2 months, I made more money doing virtual consulting than I had in the previous 35 years.
Wow. In just a month?
2 months.
See? You like that million, that girl that made that million in 3 hours?
I'm ready. I looked at it. I'm taking notes.
Did you put the link in here?
Oh yeah, it's in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was some good stuff. I was like, look
wait,
at this.
Jennifer Ness, it wasn't 3 hours. It was 90 minutes.
90 minutes. See, I was even wrong. I was giving her a little bit more time.
She have 2 million by that point.
Right. But thank you for looking that up and that link in the chat. I love that about you, John. I really appreciate that. But these are just some ways to increase your revenue streams. I am running out of time. I know BJ wanted you guys to kind of work on your plan. But I did want to say, if you have not already done so, I have a free guide on my website at jenniferness.com. Talks about some strategies for cash flow, resources, and some information. I am doing, if I don't leave you with anything else, you guys, assess and pivot. Now is the time, okay? And if you asking yourself, how? I need a little bit more help, right? I'm doing a masterclass at the end of this month. If you're interested in that, check it out. It's on the website. And if you have any questions, I am available, okay? Washington Small Business Development Center. Let me type that in. That's where I work. That is not my business, but let me see, wsbdc.org. And we have 29 offices across the state. And so if there's an office that's closer to you, absolutely reach out to them. You can find my contact information on there if you want to reach out to me, but it's wsbdc.org. Oh, and what I did not mention is our services are no cost, okay? So we can be a complement to what you're already receiving, because our services are paid for by the Small Business Administration and other stakeholders, okay? So that is what I have for now. I'm going to turn it back over to BJ. I'm sorry I took so much time, BJ. I apologize.
That was good stuff. And Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind sharing the presentation so I can then share it out with the group, that would be phenomenal. We were originally going to break out into a couple of breakout rooms and work on our plan, but you all have been taking notes, right? So what we're going to do for the last couple of minutes, Jim, we'll probably run a couple of minutes over. We're just going to do a roll call. And I want you to mention three things, at least one thing in the assess category in terms of demand, operation, and financials. In terms of, so one thing in each category that you are going to do and have that be your plan, or the beginnings of your plan, the beginnings of your 90-day SMART goal plan. So I'm just going to, randomly just take a roll call here. Lawrence, if you wouldn't mind chiming in terms of what three things are going to be part of your plan, your assess and pivot plan going forward?
So I run a co-working space, so we've been hit pretty hard dramatically by the quarantine and also social distancing. Even after we open up, I believe that the old business model is not going to work to support us. So basically, the key thing that we're doing is we're trying to identify other profit centers that we could run through the co-working space. One of the things that we put into place was a virtual membership, basically for businesses that is an early stage where they just need a business address and phone answering service. So we're offering that. Second thing that we've been doing is, I've been exploring, is basically looking into putting a recording studio inside my co-working space, because I believe moving forward, there's going to be a lot of video production that's going to be made. I heard a story that Dropbox just basically decided they're going to stop all their person-to-person training, but everything is going to be made into video. And a lot of big companies and corporations are doing that. Another thing is I believe that video bloggers are going to be increasing. So we decided to put in an audio and video recording studio within our co-working space to drive extra revenue, because that is the most, I guess, critical thing for our business is how do we drive more revenue when revenues are going down. Another thing, just like, Jennifer, what you said is that we're preparing our co-working space for reopening, meaning that we're spending quite a bit of money preparing our co-working space because we need to be concerned with the social distancing. So we have a lot of desks. So putting a sneeze barrier on a desk, it's pretty expensive. So basically I looked into it. It was going to cost us probably a little bit over $10,000, but I found a way where we could manufacture it, just buy the plexiglass, and we're going to frame it ourselves. So I think we could probably do it for about $3,000, but we're doing everything we can to increase the service, bring the awareness for any new member that comes on site, and as well as any visitors. There's a lot of protocols that we're putting in place to give our member assurance that this is a safe environment. But once again, the biggest thing that I'm doing is reducing cost by renegotiating and switching my services. At the same time, trying to figure out how to drive more revenue. And some of the services that are worth considering is nothing to do with co-working space, but it has something to do with a startups, which is in alignment with our core business. So we hope to bring in additional, probably 3 more profit centers. And I've been running some pro forma financials on where we could be. So until I find a point where I feel happy or satisfied that we could reach, I'm going to have to keep on digging, exploring, talking to people, and try to see how do I generate more revenue and reduce more expense.
I'm just kidding, but are you going to turn up your Wi-Fi signal and convince folks to sit outside and chill in their cars?
Yes, I think I'm going to do that. I mean, we have a broadband, we have a fiber optic coming into the building, but I think we're going to invest some money into access points where we could extend the range into the parking lot now. So I think that's a great idea. People who are not, they don't feel safe coming in. Yeah, why not get a coffee and go out and work from your car? So thank you for that hint. Yeah.
Yeah, finesse. I've already extended the Wi-Fi into my background or my backyard.
Alicia,
All right, DJ.
how about your 3 items on your plan?
Yeah, so my name is Alicia. I run a nonprofit gym. And I think my tough spot has been planning with so many unknowns. And then, so the 30, 60, 90 plan, I think before this was more overwhelming than now thinking of it. I think it's because it just involves so many people or my team. Because I can't do, if I am inspired by something, I feel like I want to go a specific direction, but I feel sometimes overwhelmed with trying to figure out how I can spread that to everybody so that they run in the same pace that I'm trying to run, or at least understand where we're trying to go. But I think after this, being able to figure out a 30, 60, 90 plan that's just not on paper, but I can actually follow through with, is something that I'm going to try to do as soon as I'm done with this, since it's fresh on my mind. And then the passive income, I mean, we do that because, I mean, a gym membership is a subscription in a sense. And so just trying to figure out more of those and align up our programs with the demand right now. I feel like our current programs are on the past demand, and I think updated is a little bit different, especially now that they're the health related. I think people are just heightened about their health right now, and having a strong immune system and exercise, making the connection between what we do with the cause of who we are, is something that I'm trying to do too. So I think assess and pivot, somewhere in all that is my assessment and pivot plan, or trying to solidify it.
Sounds good. Miss Lee, how about you? 3 things.
Hi. So I thought about the assessment for demand, and I've been thinking about this quite a bit. And one of the things that we want to do in terms of pivoting our business is being able to accept EBT at the restaurant, and to have a competitive advantage there, and have a niche there as far as it might be some equipment requirements, but and I'm working right now trying to go through the Department of Agriculture applications to be able to navigate that process to accept EBT. And so that's one of the things as far as the demand. And then, like I said, with my finances, being able to do a workup of my personal finances, especially credit cards and outstanding bills, and just trying to figure out what balances I have and so forth, and trying to just get a grasp on that so that I know where I stand with those things, and moving forward. And operations wise, right now, well, and this has been an ongoing, is that that I mentioned it before, that that I'm trying to document all my systems in the restaurant, and that has been a huge challenge for me, but I'm doing a little bit at a time. So those and I'm planning to utilize some of that for in the SMART goals. I did get a good idea as well from Jennifer Ness, the VIP club and coupon, like the subscription, maybe reaching out to customers and if that they can, could get become a part of our coupon club so basically they can spend a small amount and have access to a coupon that's valid for the entire month. And try to get them, try to figure out how to position that idea. So no, that's what I have in mind.
Lee, the theme that came to mind with you as Jennifer Ness was presenting her operations piece was the evaluation and assessment in terms of either restriction or constricting and expanding. And maybe you take a look at your menu, which is pretty expansive, and you've already expanded into a product that is super duper popular, and you're hitting it with the catfish and the barbecue, and I'm sure there are other very, very popular items. So maybe it's expanding in one area and constricting in others, really focusing your menu on those 3 or 4 like heavy hitters, such that if folks want to know where to go get, was it Cajun smothered Cajun noodles or
the Cajun seafood boil,
they know where to go. If they want catfish, they know where to go. If they want barbecue, they know where to go. So just 2 cents.
Yep, I like that.
Tim, how about you? 3 things.
Collaborating. So like before this thing even took off, before this COVID thing hit, I was actually in the process of, I've been talking with one of my boys. He got a restaurant on, I think it's 18th and Yesler in the CD, but he was basically saying that I would be able to use, that he could talk to the manager, the person who runs the owner of the building, and basically try to let me get a day where I could be in there serving my bowls and stuff. And so I just want to I need to get back on that. And shout out to Lee, because she gave me the same, she said the same thing too. So I appreciate you for that too. But so that's one thing, just trying to collaborate. And there's a few people on Facebook that I seen doing things, and I feel like with my teriyaki and what they got, we could probably cover some more ground, and blow it up a little bit. And then I guess with passive income, would that be like t-shirts and stuff like that, merchandise? Because that's what I think, because I don't see nobody really, as far as in the food industry, that has merchandise like t-shirts and beanies and, stickers and keychains. I think that could be something that we could capitalize on right now. And then a competitive advantage, like I said, with the delivering all over, keep my reach. And then at the same time, I'm in the middle of starting up a podcast too. And so that would give me, I would be able to advertise and, and promote and talk about the business, and then, even do like a little cooking segment or whatever. But that would just give me, something that I don't see everybody have. So, and then just taking advantage, I got a good buddy of mine who's a videographer, and he wants to do some commercials for me. So just taking advantage of little stuff like that. That's going to be my goal.
And how many Facebook followers do you have and Instagram followers do you have, Sam?
On my music page, it's 7,000.
Sam, I'm gonna need you to change that fire remote. Change that.
I thought that was my house.
But Sam, there's particularly if you add the podcast, I mean, that's going to be a lot of opportunity to cross promote, leverage those 7,000 Facebook followers. Granted, many of them are goes beyond Seattle in terms of those Facebook followers.
Absolutely.
Nonetheless, there's a great opportunity to leverage that audience for sure.
For sure.
Miss Teresa, how are you?
I am good, thank you. Thank you, Jennifer Ness. I appreciate you again. It was so good. So one of the things about assessing demands, the first thing that I saw on that list was oversaturated. It's oversaturated. The type of work that I do. There's so many consultants. There's so many, facilitators and people who provide personal and professional development for organizations and employees, and I feel like we all have the same idea, is to basically go virtual, which a lot of people have been very successful in. And so one of the things that I think I'm just going to lean on is continue to do, just continue to perfect my craft and really lean on word of mouth and lean on testimonials. So it can really just continue to have that demand specifically for Spark performance. And then with the financials, currently right now, I did kind of just start getting Spark Performance back up and operating. However, I do have the nonprofit business. I also have life coaching for young adults. And then Spark Performance. And so really just really maximizing those, monetizing and maximizing those streams of income. And then operations, just like I said before, really just focusing on really the virtual programming and providing my services, in the virtual world.
That is awesome. Let me just speak up here with my three things. I'm going to cheat a little bit and blame it on time, but I'm going to combine the demand and operations pieces. In Urban Impact's world, we're serving 24 entrepreneurs through our Sharks at the Beach entrepreneurial program and through the Small Business Accelerator here. But guess what? The demand, particularly during this COVID crisis, has skyrocketed in terms of folks coming to me saying, "Hey, how can I help? How can I be a part of your cohort?" And that's created an opportunity for organizations that don't normally work together because we're kind of geographically focused or otherwise focused on our kind of book of business. But I've had an opportunity to collaborate with Africa Town and Black Dot. I've had an opportunity to collaborate with Ventures. I've had an opportunity to collaborate with the City of Seattle Office of Economic Development. I've had an opportunity to collaborate with Washington Small Business Development Center. Thank you very much, Jeanette and Stucker. And it is amazing what did I used to say? Necessity is the mother of invention. Well, crisis is the mother of collaboration. So that has certainly been a key theme in my COVID journey and will continue on afterwards for sure. Financially, I'm going to turn that personally. Princess and I looked at, we have our once a month Costco run in our once a week grocery run, and we have saved so much money by just cooking at home. So that's at least one thing that we are going to carry on post COVID, is not eating out as much and taking the same attitude in terms of limiting our expenses, taking that same attitude that we're employing to our businesses and applying it in our home. And that's my three, right? So Jenna Finesse, want to thank you. Hand wave, and if you can hand wave so I can get a picture here, I'd really appreciate it. Where's my picture at? Come on.
Took my necklace off. Hold on.
You want me to do it, BJ? I got you.
I got it here. Okay, hand wave.
My necklace back.
Oh, that's fashionable. Here we go. Okay, got it. Thank you.
One more thing, DJ. I took a look at what you asked earlier about having temperature check-in for workplace. It is allowed, but there's a protocol that people have to follow, deciding if the employer is doing it, the employee doing it, or a third party is doing it. And that goes with privacy, making sure that data is not shared with anybody else but the employee. And also, if they're not willing to take the test or they have fever, you need to send them home, but have to do a follow-up, and also figuring out what's the return back to work procedure would look like. So I'll just leave this on the slide and I'll share it with the cohort, but it is allowed. It's just you have to follow the local, state, and federal safety and health laws, because there could be potential workplace hazard, because if they're using the same thermal screening tool for everyone, or if the person already is infected, it's going to create more chaos than good. So there are rules that employers have to comply, if they're implementing this feature, but it's allowed.
For sure, I would anticipate as phase 2, phase 3 hit, there'll be much more guidance on this type of thing from both from an employee perspective and from a customer perspective. So
Definitely, and then there's an option to like have a screen between the person and the screener, or to even have like mask is mandatory, of course, but like to even have it outside of the workplace or inside. There's a lot of factors that play into it. It's just to have to actually do research before implementing.
sounds good.
Not to get in trouble.
We are well over. However, I believe it was a good investment of time. John, thank you again for producing here. Once again, thank you very much. And thank you all, entrepreneurs. Lawrence, one of our coaches, thank you so very much for joining us tonight. And I just bid you all a good evening and be in action. All right?
Thank you. Alicia, I need a diet and workout regimen.
Got you.
So,
All right.
For real. All right, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
All right.